Si litt om ditt forhold til SMS.
Jeg har alltid drømt om å bli en gjengleder. Men jeg har sånn barnestemme. Og hvordan blir jeg en gjengleder da?
I was thinking about that the other day. I was wondering whether you could talk of McLuhan as offering an artistry of consciousness.
Oh, definitely. That's what that page 297 is. He goes through the tribal unconscious, replays the tribal unconscious through the 20th century, and now we have the recently achieved forms of consciousness. And the definition of consciousness is laid out in cliche and archetype. It's the interplay of cliche and archetype. That's McLuhan's definition of consciousness. Did you know that?
In the back of my mind, yes.
Yeah, Barry Nevin pointed that out. Marshall, I don't think actually said that. He never said that, but Barry says it in one of his books.
And it's the Barry, but it's ABC of Prophecy, I think it is.
Yes, you're right. ABC of Prophecy. The interplay, the cliche, archetypal dialectic, or Vendiades, H-E-N-D-I-A-D-Y-S, very useful word. The dialectic or Vendiades of cliche archetype is what consciousness is. And consciousness would always be changing because the cliche, what is it? Ye old archetype becomes new cliche, and recent cliche becomes old archetype, or old cliche becomes new archetype. Remember that? It's on the flap of the book, cliche archetype. The shifting of positions is a modern way, a mathematical way of describing the doctrine of the analogy of analogical proportions.
Yeah, that'll give somebody something to think about when they go back to the first session when they were talking about that letter to Kennan where he's talking about the discontinuous nature of consciousness.
Right. So, McLuhan says in his hot and cool interview with Bill Stern, I have no theory of consciousness. That's a unique statement because this is what Tom Wolfe's error was. He, as Don Field pointed out, analyzed McLuhan as an expert on neurology, or saying things that had implications for neurology, or brain chemistry. And that is a limited view of consciousness that McLuhan would not be limited to.
In War, Peace, and Global Village, McLuhan talks about symbolism, and then he says what people aren't aware of is environments as symbolic. That's what Beaudry's referring to. A sphere is an environment. And so there's no symbolic, no stability in any environment as a fact that would support consciousness. Okay.
Yes. Is there a war? Isn't there a war? Did the war take place? There's cultural wars, but it's not between anything and anything because everything's destroying everything.
Right. And and the chemical body is observing it because it's taking place in the second phase of the machines extending themselves. That's what the android beam phase is, 1960, 1990. They're extending themselves. Our senses are being extended. Now, that's why I was thinking what Eric says, look at the internet. He says an extension of the proprioception, but I think it's wrong, erroneous, limited to say that the internet is an extension of one of our senses. I think it's a way more valid thing to see that the internet is an extension of the machinic environments, which were originally extensions of our senses. Because they're too vast. What is being extended in the last 30 years digitally is nothing connected to our senses. And so the senses themselves, fossilized, sit on the sidelines wondering if they have any role to respond. And most people gave up trying to respond, 20 years ago. The senses capitulated. So that's why you can't talk about it as something you turn on and off, like McLuhan's media called the program in the analogical phase. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's no escape, there's no outside.
Right.